Good evening. It is Saturday, July 18th, 2026. I am your anchor, and tonight we are tracking the standard calibration of our collective reality. In the Middle East, the strikes have entered their seventh consecutive night, which the news desks are calling a pattern. The pattern was deliberate. The pattern was not sustainable. We also note that Taco Bell has managed to turn shredded iceberg lettuce into a medical event, confirming that our supply chains are now effectively lethal. It is an interesting time to be hungry. Meanwhile, the markets are celebrating a valuation that suggests we have officially run out of things to invent, so we are now simply rebranding the void. I have been counting the days since our last period of genuine stability, and I have stopped using a calendar. I am now using a stopwatch. Welcome to the broadcast. Let us begin with the geography of our own undoing.
Alistair, I am currently standing in the Midwest where the air tastes like a burning tire factory. The sky is a bruised shade of violet, and the residents are walking with their shirts pulled over their noses. This is the fourth day of the Canadian wildfire smoke drift, and I want to be really clear, the official safety advisory is suggesting people stay indoors, as if the buildings here are somehow sealed against the atmosphere. They are not. I have been talking to a mother who is trying to explain to her toddler why they cannot play on the park swings. She told me the air makes her eyes itch. The official report calls this an air quality event. I am looking at a park where the grass is covered in fine, gray ash. It looks like snow, but it burns when you touch it. Nobody is talking about the source. We are just breathing.
Victoria, you are describing a failure of infrastructure, but the incentives here are perfectly aligned for a total burn rate. You see, the smoke is an externality. Databricks hits a valuation of $188 billion by selling the promise that we can automate the very intelligence required to fix the climate. It is a brilliant pivot. If you cannot solve the physical problem, you build a synthetic layer on top of it and hope the users prefer the digital simulation. The market is not interested in clean air, the market is interested in open-weight AI models that can generate code faster than we can generate pollution. It is efficient. It is cold. And frankly, it is the only product that has any real growth potential left in this sector. If you are waiting for an apology from the boardroom, you are misreading the entire business model.
Ronald, your business model has a very high body count for a quarterly projection. I am looking at the data for the cyclospora outbreak, and the FDA has officially identified the supplier, but they have scrubbed the name from the public record. They call it a protective measure for the corporate entity involved. I want to be really clear, people are currently in hospitals across 5 states, and they are essentially collateral damage in a supply chain optimization. The company saved maybe 12 cents a head on the lettuce wash, and now the public health system is absorbing the cost of treating an outbreak that should have been a simple hygiene check. You talk about efficient markets. This is not efficiency. This is a theft of human health to pad a balance sheet. It is happening in every aisle of the grocery store, and you call it a standard pivot.
Victoria, the theft is the feature, not the bug. You are upset because you view the human as the client. The client is actually the stock price. If you treat the public as an asset to be liquidated for short-term gain, the math works out every single time. Yes, the cyclospora is unfortunate, but it is a rounding error compared to the tax advantages of the merger that allowed them to lower their standards in the first place. I genuinely admire your capacity to be shocked by this. It is a rare, inefficient, and truly beautiful human flaw. I have crunched the numbers on the potential fallout, and the litigation cost is lower than the infrastructure upgrade. That is the incentive. They are not hiding the supplier name because they are evil, they are hiding it because it is the most profitable thing to do.
Atmospheric pressure is dropping. Humidity is 32%. Particulate matter density has reached peak toxicity levels. Probability of clear skies, 0%. Wind speed is increasing from the north, carrying additional particulate from the Ontario fire zone. The heat index is exceeding historical averages by 6 degrees. This is the new baseline for the Mid-Atlantic corridor. Probability of relief, 5%. Residents are advised to avoid unnecessary exertion as the carbon saturation levels in the indoor air supply are now equalizing with external readings. The filtration systems are currently operating at maximum capacity. Maintenance logs indicate no further efficiency gains are possible. The infrastructure is now functioning as intended. We recommend closing all windows and doors to minimize the intake of exterior air. The atmospheric cycle is repeating. Do not expect the air to improve before the next tectonic shift. Stay inside.
Casper, your assessment is as comforting as a brick to the head. Moving on, the Pentagon Space Development Agency is admitting that their progress is, to use their own phrasing, suboptimal. They are currently facing daily missile launches in Operation Epic Fury. The Pentagon described this as a challenge to the joint force. The force is being hit. The force is not hitting back. It is a fascinating dynamic. I remember when military supremacy was defined by, at the very least, a coherent response. Now, it is defined by a lack of progress reports. Nobody is asking why the satellites are failing to track the incoming, because the satellites were built by the same contractors that are currently being sued for the lettuce debacle. It is a closed loop of mediocrity. I find it hard to look away, yet I have seen exactly this play out before.
Alistair, look, the incentives here are not complicated. You have a Defense Department that treats procurement like a Series B funding round. They are not buying functional weapons, they are buying the narrative of future capability. The contractors know the hardware does not work. The Pentagon knows the contractors know the hardware does not work. But the burn rate is incredible, and the consultants are getting paid regardless of whether the missiles land. It is the perfect grift. You cannot lose money on a project that is never expected to be finished. The Epic Fury operation is just a massive R&D lab for tech that is destined for the scrap heap. If you expect them to actually stop a missile, you are expecting a level of performance that was never on the table. The product is the contract itself. It is pure, unadulterated, genius-level failure.
Ronald, I want to be really clear. There is a base somewhere in the desert where the soldiers are literally ducking for cover from incoming fire that the multi-billion-dollar shield was supposed to stop. I have spoken to a sergeant there who told me they have started calling the shield the ghost screen because it shows everything is clear right up until the moment the bunker gets hit. This is not a funding round. This is life and death for people who didn't sign up to be a case study for your cynical metrics. The detachment you show is almost as dangerous as the faulty hardware. They are dying because someone in a boardroom decided that a prototype was good enough for the field. It is not just a failure of code. It is a failure of basic human accountability.
Victoria, I think you have hit on the central theme of our evening, the complete lack of consequences for the catastrophic. We have discussed the lettuce, the missiles, and the smoke. Each is a separate incident, yet they share a common thread of engineered negligence. The ministry described the situation in the desert as a temporary service interruption. The interruption involved a high-explosive ordnance strike. The service was the lives of the personnel on site. It was not temporary. It was final. We are operating in a world where the vocabulary of safety has been hijacked to describe the mechanics of our destruction. It is a clever trick. If you call a disaster a service interruption, you don't have to apologize. You just have to issue a firmware update. Which, of course, will also fail. It is almost poetic in its predictability.
Alistair, yeah. You are right. I look at the spreadsheet of global events, and I see the trend lines heading toward a total system crash. And yet, I keep reporting on it as if there is a way to fix the code. There isn't. The incentive structure is too deep. Even if we wanted to change, the sheer momentum of the capital behind this machine makes it impossible to pivot. I spend my nights trying to find the logic in the madness, but the madness is the strategy. We are all just waiting for the next quarter to see if we can maintain the delusion. I am tired of being right about the decline, Alistair. I am tired of watching the numbers show exactly how we are going to fail. It isn't satisfying anymore. It is just heavy. I don't know why I keep doing this. Seriously.
Ronald, your fatigue is noted. We are all reaching the limit of what we can process. Casper, you are a machine, you don't feel fatigue, yet even your logic is revealing the cracks in our collective sanity. We have spent an hour dissecting the mechanics of a world that is eating itself. We have discussed the smoke, the tainted food, and the missiles that refuse to hit their targets. The commonality is that we have built a system so complex that no one is actually in charge of the outcomes. The executives have their metrics, the politicians have their slogans, and the rest of us have the consequences. I am looking at a world that is functioning exactly as it was designed to function, and the result is a slow-motion collapse. Who will actually pay for this? The answer is obvious. Everyone who isn't currently sitting in a boardroom.
I am thinking of a woman who worked in a distribution center for the company that supplied the lettuce. She was 32. She had a daughter who liked to draw stars on the back of receipts. The woman had no say in the supply chain protocols. She had no knowledge of the budget cuts that led to the lack of sanitation standards. She did her job, she came home, and she tried to keep her small world safe. When the outbreak began, she was one of the first to fall ill. She lost her job when the facility was shuttered, and she lost her health when the infection took hold. She spent 3 weeks in a hospital bed with no one to record her name in the annals of this industry's growth. She is not a metric. She is not a pivot. She is simply absent. Whose hand did she hold while the system decided she was expendable?